So, good morning. It is day 7 of the journey, which means I have actually succeeded in a week. Today started early, much earlier than I have been. I always set my alarm for 5:30 with sort of a pre-alarm at 5. And sometimes I'm up and moving by 6:30. Sometimes I sleep until 8. Today I actually took the 5 o'clock alarm and was awake around 5 after. And it definitely feels like this is helping me get back into the rhythm, um, trying to get up early. One of the other reasons that I get up early is because that is when the voice is most relaxed, and for a bass, that's a good thing. Before I get into today's session, I want to quickly explain something because it's going to become visible. I am intending to start doing video takes of my actual process of recording, but I have a piece of technology I use and I need to explain that. I'm working with what's known as the Apple Vision Pro, which is their version of an XR headset. And XR is sort of that halfway point between AR and VR. I don't really want to go into the tech behind it. You can look it up. It's really to help me because one of the things it does is it lets me hang windows in space around me. And one of those windows is actually my computer screen. When I take the computer screen and hang it through the headset, I actually get, I think it's a 40 or 60-inch screen. So I can basically blow up Logic Pro huge, but then I can have other things floating around me. For example, when I do Boulevard, I'm still trying to get all the lyrics down. I actually have the lyrics floating right next to me. Behind me, I typically will have an audio recording of the song so I can listen to it. I have a piano so that I can actually tap out notes. But everything just sort of hangs around me, and I don't have to keep changing apps or changing context because I find if I get too distracted, I fall off of the progress I'm making. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I consider myself fairly ADHD, which is ADHD with a light topping of autism on top of it. Well, you probably figured something out by this point. So I'll be using that, and I use it when I sing. So when I start doing videos of me singing, you'll understand why I'm singing with goggles on. Okay, enough of that. Today we're going to continue with the two-piece system that I've been designing. So primary, secondary. And at this point, I'm no longer thinking about the system. I'm just saying, okay, we're up to the primary piece. We finish that up. We're up to the secondary piece. So it's good that it's no longer something I'm thinking about. Today's primary was be prepared. Yeah, sorry. Today's primary was be prepared, and the secondary was Boulevard, which is a flip from yesterday. So before I go into the primary session, I have to talk about what happened because I got up at 5 in the morning. Something happened which really was surprising, I'll say that. I was still in bed, very relaxed, not pushing, not trying to perform, just casually singing. Now, I've been doing this for years. My spouse and I have been married for 21 years. And for a long time, I've had this habit of quietly singing in the bed when they're asleep. It's never been an issue. They wear hearing aids because they have a severe hearing impairment. During the day, with their aids in and lip reading, you wouldn't even realize that they do have a hearing impairment. But it is serious to the point that without the hearing aids, there are only a few really deep frequencies they can barely hear. So this morning I'm lying there relaxed, just singing, and apparently with all of the rehearsals I've been doing on this journey, my morning voice has dropped and deepened, And they rolled over and said, "You just woke me with your singing." So after 21 years, I managed to wake a hearing impaired person in their sleep because my bass was too prominent. So, on the one hand, I really feel badly for waking my spouse. And on the other hand, I just sort of wanted to giggle because I was thrilled. I've never done that. But that's not about hitting the notes. It was the resonance. It's the fact that that deep buzz is actually carrying. I'm actually projecting that rumble. And with waking up my spouse, it's sort of the first time I've really had a completely external, real world confirmation that something I'm doing isn't just working internally, but it's actually present in space and people can take it in. So I kind of started my session on that little high, but always when I'm trying to, let me stop that. When I sing, I am trying to not try. There is no try, there is only do, which really makes more sense the more I've been doing this. Um, I have begun to realize that the more I just let go and keep going what I've been doing, it improves not a lot at a time, but it improves. So let's dive into today's sessions. We started with be prepared. I'm beginning to think we is you and me. So it started with be prepared. And I'm up to take 102. Now, my first take is always a calibration take, but it was interesting because normally when I get up, my voice is at about here, but by the time I get dressed, get washed, all of that, get a drink, my voice has come up about here. This morning, despite getting dressed and cleaning up and everything else, I still had a low voice coming into my session this morning. Um, my average speaking tone was an F1, um, and actually my piano today. So yeah, my average speaking tone this morning was F1, and I could hit an E1 without any effort. We'll see if this actually works, but this is the F1. Sorry, I'm hitting multiple keys there, but that's how I was speaking this morning. Um, and I entered into the session doing this. Um, Be Prepared has three low notes in the sections I'm doing so far, a pair of A1s and a G1. Now, my voice is actually below that, so unlike normal, I'm actually climbing up to that note rather than letting it uh, dive in. So everything, the three notes were smack on. They were there. They had support. They had resonance. They had consistency throughout all the takes. However, I was not used to having that tone in my voice when I sang. So everything felt sort of dark and subdued and not able to control the color of the tone. So it wasn't weak, it just was less present as a whole. Um, what I realized is that there's a separation between my technique working and the expression on top of that technique. So when I'm fully relaxed, everything functions, but I'm not yet putting my intention into everything working without effort. Okay, so I moved into the second take, the first post calibration take. The idea is okay, we've warmed up with a rendition of the song. Now it's time to just relax into the song. However, there was a little bit of try in there, and that was I was effectively trying to lasso the color from my really deep positioning. So I tried, and I find when I try, when I'm consciously saying I need to do this during performance, performance being a recording, um, the pitch will start to come off. Um, the first A1 was sharp. I didn't go to the right note. All of the low notes were croaky rather than buzzy, and even my throat was sort of clogged up with sort of. It wasn't something in my singing area. It was something in my swallowing area. I felt like I needed water or had to swallow, and that showed. Now, with everything I've just said, it wasn't a bad take, but it very clearly demonstrated that I was trying to adapt to the differences. So, between take 103 and 104, I basically went Jedi. It was a stop to think about not thinking, if that makes any sense at all, to just let it go. And now I've got Idina Menzel in my head, but I just had to not perform, just enjoy singing, enjoy the character of Scar, and I did take 104. I have to say that take 104, without question, was probably the most complete and well done take that I've done in 104 repetitions. So, my entrance with the lyrics sometimes is either too punchy or slightly timing off the mark. I really suggest, if you haven't listened to Be Prepared by Voice Play, take a listen to what they do there. So, my entrance was perfectly clean. The phrasing was all connected. The breath continuity was solid, and without thinking or trying, the low notes came back up. They were present and functioning. So I wasn't trying to make it happen. It happens when I don't try. Now about those low notes, they're still not as resonant or positioned like I want them to be. They don't actually match the tone of the song. If I'm sitting here, like be prepared, it's not coming up. But I mean, if I don't try to go to the note through the phrase, I've got the note. So that's something I'm still working on. There was a big production realization too, and that is when I first started singing and I listened to my voice, it was, well, from my point of view, bad. It was soft, it was wishy washy, and of course, it was the first time I heard my voice in 30 years. My voice has gotten stronger over 104 repetitions of this piece of music. I've got breath control, I've got breath support, projection, and as a result, I'm much louder than my backing track, to the point where I don't sound like I'm singing with the song. I feel like I'm singing against the song. So I have to actually remix the backing track versus my vocals to get closer. I want to sound like I am in the group, not outside the group. And I actually dropped my vocal track 3 dB, I think it's decibel. It's not a lot, but it was enough to rebalance it. It was enough that I didn't have to contemplate what I was doing to fit in the mix. Now, the mix isn't perfect because I am singing against non-lead vocal release version of the song, which means it's already been mixed down for everybody else. Everybody else's voices have been treated. I think the best term is they all sound like they're in the same room. And because my vocals aren't treated, I sound like I'm in my room, which doesn't match. So I'm going to be spending the next few days outside my rehearsals to really listen in to how that backing track is mixed in the hopes that I can put some modifications post take to ease my voice to be more fitting in that room. But the Be Prepared primary session was absolutely fantastic today. Fortunately, Boulevard's a much quicker session today, but it did reinforce a lot of what was going on in the primary. I still had a low register at that point. And the reason I like Boulevard is because it has, despite being from the bass gang, it is showing off that basses can reach higher notes. And when my voice is very deep, I have difficulty with the higher notes. So I did take 31, solid calibration. My section 1, which is the high entry, it's feeling more natural. Overall support was consistent, but while I was doing that first calibration take, I had an SMS message come in. So I'm in the process of trying to not try, and I hear a ding, and I sort of fell off my technique a little, but I was able to get through section 1. Section 2 really is beginning to lock in because it's all down here. And this is where I'm at my strength. I was able to maintain the color. I think the only real problem that I had in Take 31, 32 with the second section was that I haven't quite figured out how staccato versus legato, how choppy versus flowy should my vocals be. Again, what that really requires me to do is to study the source material. So after 31, I had a little dip in confidence, and it was just enough to flatten my high note in section 1. Technically, everything was still there, but at this point, most of my issues are me trying to find what can I performance-wise correct rather than what can I improve technique-wise. How do I shape the color? How do I shape the projection, the sound, the emotions? So that's a really good transition state that I'm floating in now. I'm really beginning to less need to be aware of my technical because I'm really implementing it as almost muscle memory. It's got a way to go. I've only been at this for about a month. One thing I really remember about Take 32, because Session 2 is, for me, the fun part. Section 2 is the fun part. It's all in that middle range, and I just get to lock in and begin to really feel character. It went by really quickly. I actually came out of that take thinking, that was quick. Is there any more? And what it told me is I'm actually reaching the point where the current material is no longer engaging the system as fully because it's really easy. It's really familiar. So it's efficient. I don't think I just roll through it and it's done. So tomorrow, Boulevard is primary. I'm actually going to be adding in the next block of the music. The block 2 of the music is the first chorus, which is my shadow. That's that high F4 into a D sharp 4. Now, yesterday I hit that E4, but that was really just a vocal warm-up relaxation test. It was exploratory. Um, this will be intentional, and it has to happen without being intentional. It just has to be there. So that's going to be the new practice, and I will actually be showing some of that in video. Second part of block two is the next verse, but unlike section two of the first block, where the verse is all here, in the second block, the verse is like the first section of the first part. So it's up here, and that's a little trickier. Now, also, if you're familiar with the Bass Gang's arrangement of Boulevard of Broken Dreams, right after that verse comes this really wonderfully done. I just marvel at what Marwin does with arrangements and video and everything else. What happens is you see the four basses very grainy and color punched up a bit, singing in sort of a mix to falsetto in four-part harmony. And of course, it has a little bit of a creepy vibe. The whole song, the whole video has a bit of a creepy vibe, but that's fine. And that is going to be my next block, just those 3 or 4 lines, because I'm going to be taking apart those harmonies. I am going to multi-track myself once I learn those harmonies, and that in itself is going to be a completely different endeavor. And I'm looking forward to that when I get there, because it really is building up a completely new portion of technique and performance. Okay, let's back out of the technical. There was a lot that really happened today that made me very happy. My system is beginning to shift from how do I make it work to it's working. My support is coming in. I have to say, I had somebody on the BSA site, that's the Bass Singer Academy, tell me that they are able to hear the improvement, and I cannot thank that person enough, because I'm too close to it. I don't hear the progress. I don't hear myself anymore. I just hear each iteration. Even when I A/B it, or listen to an old one versus a new one, I don't quite get the development or the process, but it's there. And what I'm dealing with it now is not how do I make it work, but how do I deal with it while it's working. And that is where I get to put things in. Of course, when I try to influence that, that's when the whole system starts to destabilize. So the next phase of this process is going to be learning how to add expression, intention, more presence, without destabilizing the rest of the system. Let's see. When I come out of some of my takes, I have how I feel. Not how did I feel about singing, but how do I feel? It's related to the take. Like, I'll come out of a take and go, that was good. Every now and then I'll come out of a take and go, that felt good. Today's take from Be Prepared, the 104, I actually came out and I was still so much into that moment of the song. I'm like, that was sexy. Which is really out of character for me. But it felt so good doing that take. So let's see. I mean, a few days ago, I was still just trying to make it through my takes. And on top of that, I was dealing with all of the technical problems of setting up the page. And Logic Pro being Logic Pro. Now I'm really in that musical space, and it really is a great place to be for me right now. I really love what I'm doing. And it's especially important with the two songs that I really love the two pieces I'm working on. So I'm not getting bored or fatigued by them. So, in the next day or three, I will start adding some video or some audio or both from my sessions so you can actually see the process and hear the process. And because I don't quite want to just upload an audio file to the YouTube page. I want to, be able to say, here's what it is and what's going on. And I hope that is a good addition. I want to thank anybody watching that's subscribed because statistics wise, as of yesterday, I had 6 videos, and surprisingly, in 6 days, 6 subscribers, which I get the impression is not really to be expected. And that really humbles me, actually, that people are really enjoying the journey so far. I can't wait to get to the point where I'm actually talking about some of the other stuff, like the arrangement I'm doing of a pop release for a cappella use. But I don't want to ramble on too far. Those of you who have subscribed, thank you. Those of you who are watching the video for the first time, if you're liking it and you think you want to go back and watch the history, which is really helpful to see the development, please subscribe. If the video is really reaching out to you, liking it helps me understand how I'm doing. And of course, any comments. I'm getting some interaction. I'm also talking about the page on another platform, and I'm getting feedback, and that really helps me because this journey isn't just me developing, it's me learning and sharing. So if I'm reaching people, if it's touching people, knowing that helps me know that I'm going in the right direction. I think it's a good place to wrap things up for today. I always appreciate people who are following. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow with day 8. That will be beginning week 2. And who knows what's coming next. So thanks for watching, and later.